Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the fish skeletal system. And let me tell you, it's an absolute masterpiece of evolutionary engineering. It's the architecture that's allowed for this incredible explosion of life under the waves. So let's kick things off with a question. When you think of a fish skeleton, you probably just think of it as a frame, right? Something to hold its shape. But what else is it really for? It turns out this internal framework is doing a whole lot more work than you'd think. All right, let's get into it. This skeleton is like a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, of course, it provides the basic support and shape. But it's also absolutely essential for how fish eat. It protects all those delicate internal organs, and it acts as a lever for the muscles, letting them generate some serious power. And get this, it even makes red blood cells, and for some fish, plays a direct role in reproduction. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. We've got 5 parts. First, we'll look at the overall blueprint. Then we'll zoom in on the spine. After that, the skull, which is just fascinatingly complex. Then we'll cover the fins, and finally, we'll see how the skeleton and muscles work together to make the fish move. All right, first things first, let's take the whole fish skeleton and break it down into its 3 core parts. If you get this basic layout, everything else we're going to talk about will make a whole lot more sense. So here they are, the big 3. You've got the vertebral column, the skull, and the appendicular skeleton, which is really just a fancy way of saying the fins and their supports. You can think of it like a car. The vertebral column is the chassis, the skull is the cockpit with all the controls, and the fins, those are the wheels and steering. Okay, let's zoom in on that central axis, the spine, or vertebral column. This is the engine of movement, and we're going to see how it's perfectly built for that classic S-shaped swimming motion we all know. You can actually see the evolution of the spine play out across different fish groups. It's pretty amazing. You start with something really basic, like the hagfish's simple cartilage tube. Then you get to sharks with a more structured cartilaginous column. And finally, you arrive at the teleosts. That's most of the bony fish you can think of, with their solid, bony vertebrae. It's a clear path toward building a stronger, more supportive backbone. Now, if you look at just one of these vertebrae up close, wow, it's a little piece of engineering genius. See that arch on top? That's the neural arch, and it forms a perfect tunnel to protect the spinal cord. Down below, the hemal arch does the same thing for major blood vessels. And those spines sticking up and down, those are the attachment points, the anchors for the big swimming muscles, the epaxial muscles on top and the hypaxial muscles on the bottom. Here's something you might not know. A lot of bony fish actually have 2 sets of ribs, which is pretty different from us. You've got the pleural ribs down on the belly side. Those are the ones that protect the organs, kind of like ours. But then they also have these dorsal ribs up top, which are sometimes just floating around in the muscle, helping to organize those muscle blocks. Okay, let's move on to what is, without a doubt, the most complex part of the whole skeleton, the skull. And this thing is not just a simple box for the brain. It's a super sophisticated tool for breathing and feeding, and it looks wildly different depending on what kind of fish you're talking about. Just look at the difference here. On one hand, you have a shark. Its skull is basically one solid piece of cartilage. It's simple, it's strong, and it's built for one thing, a powerful bite. Then you look at a bony fish, and it's a totally different story. It's this complex puzzle of tons of little bones, all designed for a completely different strategy, not biting, but suction. And when I say complex, I'm not kidding. Just the brain case, the part called the Neurocranium, can have 40 or 50 separate bones in it. You might be thinking, why on earth would you need so many? Well, all that complexity is the secret sauce behind a game-changing way of eating. Right, here's the key. Because all those bones are loosely connected, the whole skull can literally flare open in an instant. When it does that, it creates this massive vacuum that just sucks water and any unsuspecting prey right into its mouth. It's an amazingly efficient feeding method, and it's a huge reason why bony fish have become so successful and diverse. So we can actually organize this complicated skull into 5 main working parts. You've got the neurocranium, which holds the brain, the suspensorium, which links the jaws to the brain case, the jaws themselves, which can often shoot forward, the opercular bones, which are the gill covers that pump water, and finally the branchiohyoid apparatus, which forms the floor of the mouth. All 5 parts have to work together perfectly. All right, moving on to the appendicular skeleton. This is all about the fins and the bones that support them. We're talking about the tools a fish uses for everything from steering and braking to just hanging out in the water column. And once again, we see this really cool split between sharks and bony fish. For sharks, their pectoral fins are supported by a simple piece of U-shaped cartilage just kind of floating in the muscle. But for bony fish, no way. They have a whole series of bones that connect the fin's support structure, or girdle, directly to the back of the skull. This makes for a much stronger anchor point, giving them way more control. And it's pretty much the same deal with the dorsal and anal fins, the ones on the top and bottom. Sharks have these simple cartilage supports stuck in the muscle. Bony fish, on the other hand, have these little bones called pterygophores that create a direct link between the fin and the spine. And that direct connection is everything. It gives them amazing, fine-tuned control. So we've got this incredible skeleton, but a frame can't move on its own, right? It needs an engine. For our last section, let's put it all together and look at how the muscles connect to this framework to power the fish through the water. So most of a fish's body is just pure muscle, and it's arranged in these cool W-shaped blocks called myomeres. The best way to picture it is like a set of stacked ice cream cones all nested together. When a fish swims, it contracts these blocks one after another, creating a wave that pushes it forward. The muscles above the midline are the epaxial, and the ones below are the hypaxial. But here's the thing, not all that muscle is the same. Fish have different types for different kinds of swimming. You've got red muscle, which is loaded with oxygen and is perfect for long-distance cruising. Think of a tuna just swimming for days. Then you've got white muscle. That's for the explosive, short bursts of speed, like a predator ambushing its prey. And yep, there's even pink muscle, which is kind of an in-between. And this is just a brilliant example of adaptation in action. Tuna, which are some of the fastest swimmers out there, have their red muscle buried deep inside their body. Why? Because it helps them stay warm. It conserves heat, which means their muscles can fire faster and more efficiently. It basically turns them into high-performance swimming machines. So, let's pull it all together. The big takeaway here is that a fish skeleton is anything but a simple, static frame. It's an incredibly dynamic system. You have the spine, acting as the central pillar for movement. You have the skull, which evolved from a simple biting tool into this complex suction-feeding machine. The fin supports got stronger and gave the fish more control, and all of it is perfectly integrated with the muscles to create an amazing swimmer. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. We know our oceans are changing, water temperatures, what food is available, all of it. So looking at this amazing skeletal toolkit, which part do you think will drive the next big evolutionary change for fish? Will it be the jaws, the fins, the spine? It's fascinating to think about what comes next.